Today we are talking about the DJI Mini 3, this brand new drone by DJI, and is this now the perfect entry-level drone? So back in November of 2020, we saw the DJI Mini 2 launch, this fantastic upgrade over the Mavic Mini 1. Then in May of 2022, we saw the DJI Mini 3 Pro launched with pro features, fantastic spec on a really small drone. And now we've just seen the DJI Mini 3 launched. So where does it fit in this lineup, and should you actually go out and buy it? What's the differences between these three drones? So I'm going to go through now the key features between the three of them, the key differences. Which drone should you go out and buy? You see, you might want to buy a drone for yourself, but you also, because it's Christmas coming up, you want to buy a drone maybe for somebody else. End of this video, I want to give you my recommendation, and also it's for you to understand better the differences between these three drones. But first, before we get into the differences, let's just talk about what the actually similarities are. What are the same between these three drones? The main similarity between all three of these drones is the weight. They're all under 250 grams, and this is massive. It means that in majority of countries around the world, if your drone is under 250 grams, you don't have to do any drone licenses, you don't have to do any qualifications, courses to fly these small drones. You probably have to register it, but this is going to be like the cost of a couple of coffees to get this registered, and away you go. So it's a lot less stress, a lot less hassle for someone just getting into drones. This is why these are fantastic entry-level drones. They're also tiny. I mean, look at the size of them. This is the battery, and they're almost the same height as the battery. These are smaller than most mobile phones, so they're really perfect and easy to take around with you. You can put this in your pocket, you can put it in a small bag with a couple of batteries, and away you go. You don't have to take a big bag with you. Now, a massive advantage to these drones is also about the quietness. These are really quiet when flying them in the air, which means you're not going to attract a lot of unwanted attention. The Mini 2 is actually a little bit louder than the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro, but generally all three of these are super quiet when flying them in the air. They also share the fact that none of them have any internal memory. So you get a little mini SD card, and you put the SD card into the back of the drone, and that's then going to store all the photos and videos, which you can then edit afterwards. But generally all three of these drones are really good. I would recommend any of these three. Certainly miles better than any of the garbage you will see on eBay or Amazon, probably under that £400 mark. I would avoid all them and put that money into one of these three drones. You will not regret it. So how do they differ though? What's the actual differences? Let's talk about that. So camera quality is super important on drones, isn't it? You don't just want to fly that drone in the air, you want to take good photos and videos. So what's the differences between all three of these? Well, we just look at the spec and then I'll break it down. So the Mini 2 shoots in 4K 30, 2.7K. The Mini 3, 4K 30, 2.7K. The Mini 3 Pro shoots in 4K up to 60 FPS, and it shoots in 1080p 120 FPS. That means that basically the higher the FPS number, it means you can then slow it down in your editor program and get this really good, nice looking slow-mo as well. So these two are pretty similar, aren't they? And then if you want the 4K 60, so that highest quality in 4K, and be able to slow it down from 120 FPS to get this really good slow-mo, the Mini 3 Pro, that's what the advantage is there. The difference is, generally speaking though, is that the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro shoot in HDR, so high dynamic range. This means that your videos and photos are going to look much sharper, capture much more detail in the clouds and the details in the trees, or the landscape basically. It's going to look much nicer and sharper straight out of it without having to do any editing than the Mini 2. So this shoots in HDR, this shoots in HDR, so a big difference there. Also the actual cameras themselves. So the Mini 2 has an f2.8 aperture. The Mini 3, the Mini 3 Pro has an f1.7. Now the lower that aperture number, so the f1.7, this is going to let more light in. This means that your low light and nighttime photos and videos are going to look much sharper, much better quality on the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro compared to the Mini 2. And if you want your photos to be the utmost quality, the Mini 3 Pro shoots at 48 megapixel photos, whereas the Mini 3 and the Mini 2 shoots at 12 megapixel. Now, none of these cameras are bad, they're all really good, but you can see a difference when shooting from an f1.7 to an f2.8, certainly in low light, and you can also tell in daylight, daytime shooting between HDR and non-HDR. So camera quality, definitely an upgrade is the Mini 3, and if you want the utmost quality, the Mini 3 Pro. But generally, Unless you're really pixel peeping, you're not going to tell the difference in photos between 12 megapixel and 48 megapixel, and the HDR is both the same. It all comes down to how much slow-mo do you want. The Mini 3 is definitely a good upgrade over the Mini 2. Now, what a lot of beginners might want is obstacle avoidance sensors. The Mini 3 and the Mini 2 only has downward position sensors. This will detect it basically when it's landing or it's getting close to the ground. Whereas the Mini 3 Pro has obstacle avoidance sensors on the back, on the front and the bottom. So this means when you're flying that drone, it will detect objects in front of it or behind it, and then it will avoid them and swerve around them, whereas the Mini 3 and the Mini 2 won't. If you get close to something like a wall, it will continue into that wall and crash, whereas the Mini 3 Pro wouldn't. It would stop, hopefully, or avoid it. So if you want that addition of the obstacle avoidance sensors, the Mini 3 Pro is the way to go. And talking of features, if you've seen videos where people are like tracking themselves or in a car or boat, this is called active track. So basically you drag a box around yourself and the drone will then follow you in the air. And the Mini 3 and the Mini 2 cannot do that. The Mini 3 Pro has what's called focus track. So you can drag it around yourself, and this is then called active track. Or you have something called spotlights. This is where you can drag a box around, say, a house, and the drone will then orbit and get these really good shots around a building or basically whatever you want. So again, features wise, there's an advantage over the Mini 3 Pro. If you know or you've heard somebody talking about, oh, it's got active track, can it follow me? I want to go on a bike, I want it to track me on a bike. These two cannot do that. That's something they want or something you want, Mini 3 Pro. We saw with the DJI Mini 3 Pro launch this new controller. It's called the DJI RC. This controller is really nice and lightweight, fit perfect in your hand, but it's got a built-in screen, capable of up to 700 nits of brightness. This is not as good as the DJI RC Pro, but it is a really good all-round controller and a good upgrade over the DJI N1. This controller is compatible with the DJI Mini 3 Pro and the DJI Mini 3. It will not work with the DJI Mini 2, nor will it work in the future with the DJI Mini 2. So if you want this controller, or you know somebody who wants this controller and looking forward into the future, this is something you need to think of, Mini 3 or the Mini 3 Pro only for using this controller. Battery life is super important on any drone, and when you first see these, your natural instinct is going to think the battery life is awful, but it's actually pretty good. You see, so much better than it used to be just a few years ago. The Mini 2 has the least amount of battery, but it's still decent, 31 minutes of battery life on the Mini 2. The Mini 3 Pro has 34 minutes, and this has the biggest. This is 38 minutes of battery life from the Mini 3. If you get the Battery Plus model, this is going to give you 51 minutes of battery life, but just be aware that's going to then put the drone over 250 grams. So if your country requires it to be under 250 grams for restriction-free flying, you're not going to then get that with that Battery Plus model. So the normal standard package with the normal battery, the Mini 3 has the biggest amount of battery life. And flight time can change. You see, if you're using lots of features or it's really windy, the flight time is going to come down. But it just means that you're not going to have to then change battery really often. You're going to get good performance. And I'm really impressed that the Mini 3 has the best amount of battery out of them. And 38 minutes, or generally even in windy conditions, about 30 minutes of battery life coming from this is really impressive. Quick shots is this feature which basically allows you to get to any location, and you've got a choice of quick shots. The drone will then allow you to drag a box around, say you or a group or an object, and it will then do this automatic filming, and you can choose a different style of how you want that film to be. So it could be like an orbit, it could be a helix. There's different ones to choose from, and these are really popular, especially for beginners. All three of these share quick shots, and you can all do these on here. It saves it as a quick file you can upload to social media, or you can then go and edit it yourself because it also saves the full file. So all of them share quick shots as well. These two, however, are different in quick shots. And how? Let's talk about true vertical shooting. You see, the DJI Mini 3 and Mini 3 Pro, the camera can actually rotate and shoot in vertical format, so horizontal and vertical. This is perfect for social media, so for uploading to Reels, TikToks, or sharing photos on Instagram, you can shoot in vertical format and upload it straight away without losing any quality. On the Mini 2, it cannot. It's a fixed horizontal image, so you then have to crop into that image, losing quality with the Mini 2. And vertical format is so popular these days with sharing content. So it's great you've got the flexibility on these two drones. And that means then in the quick shots we just talked about, so these automatic videos can be done in quick shots as well. So you can do a quick shot video and upload that to social media in vertical. You can't do that on the DJI Mini 2. Price is also going to play a factor as well, isn't it? You see the Mini 2 for Fly More combo, so you get an extra couple of batteries, a bag and some extra propellers. This is going to set you back £549. The DJI Mini 3 Pro is more expensive. It has a lot more features though, as we've discussed. Are these features going to be worth it for you? The price difference between the Mini 2 and the Mini 3 Pro is significant, but when you put the Mini 3, this is like slapped in the middle now between them. See, this has additional features that the Mini 2 doesn't. Generally, the main features are you're going to be able to shoot in HDR video, so a much nicer and crisper image. You've got vertical video as well, so you can shoot in horizontal and vertical, and the battery life is the best out of the three. So the Mini 3 is a fantastic upgrade over the DJI Mini 2, but at a price point slapped straight in the middle, because it doesn't share the same features as the Mini 3 Pro. So basically, is Active Track, Focus Track worth it for you? Is the ability that you can basically avoid objects, so you can track yourself, and this will also avoid objects as well. If it is, the features wise is what you want. You want the best of the best, 48 megapixel, those Active Track sensors, get the Mini 3 Pro, but it is more expensive. And just note that this doesn't come as a Fly More combo. You have to buy the kits as an extra. This puts the price up even more. But for beginners getting into drone flying, I would personally recommend the Mini 3 now as the drone to get. It isn't as much as a Mini 3 Pro. It's nowhere near the cost of like a Mavic series, but it also will then set you these fundamentals and learn how to fly a drone, whilst get fantastic 4K quality, being able to shoot in horizontal and vertical, and get really good battery life. But you're also going to get an extra couple of batteries as well. That just leaves you one more choice. Do you get the RC controller or the old N1 controller? Personally, the N1 controller is really good, but you have to put your phone into there. You've got to then connect it with cables. You're then relying on your phone battery as well. It's a good controller, but I really do like this one. I think it's really nice and lightweight, a nice, good built-in screen, and it's just so convenient. You can just take your drone, take the controller, away you go. You don't have to take anything else. It is really, really handy. So I hope you found that helpful. I'm going to do loads more tips and tutorials, especially for beginners, maybe just getting your first drone, your Mini 3. So if you found this helpful, please consider subscribing. Loads more content coming soon. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.